Hello everyone, so how are you doing? How's the training going? Are you beating everyone? Is everything going great? Wonderful. If not, have you hit a plateau? You have the feeling you're not improving? Then this video is for you. I am Elisabeth and this is the channel of Fior della Spada, a HEMA club based in Vienna, Austria. It's part of the learning process that the learning curve won't always go up, right? So sometimes you feel stuck, sometimes things just won't work out the way you wanted them to work out, and sometimes you don't even know why. But wait a minute. If you think you're not making progress, that's probably because you have a training goal, right? You can't measure how far you've come if you don't know your final goal. That's why, if you haven't yet, you should really break down your training goal. Everything depends on that. How you train, how much you train, literally everything depends on your training goal. Now, training goals are a very personal thing. And this is important, all training goals are valid, okay? As long as they do not involve manslaughter, conflict with the law, or similar issues. If your goal is to have fun, that's fine. You have to consider how you will define progress and or success if that is your goal. If you're just there for the fun, you can probably measure your success by how you feel during training and after training. If your goal is, for example, to get better at sparring, you should make it more concrete. What does it mean to get better at sparring? Is there someone you would like to beat one day? Is there a specific technique you would like to master? Would you like to get hit less? So define your goal, describe it, imagine it, and again, all goals are valid. If someone says, if you're not good in tournaments, then you suck at HEMA. Or if you only do tournaments, you're not doing real HEMA. Spit on them. It's your life, it's your time, and your goal. And you're not harming anyone with how and what you train. Now, as mentioned, if you want to continuously monitor your progress, you should define your training goal in a very specific way. There are countless methods for defining goals. One popular method is to define so-called SMART goals. So your goal should be specific, measurable, achievable, reasonable, and time-bound. For example, I want to get better at side sword sparring is not a SMART goal. I want to be able to participate at the sparring session next September and have at least one side sword sparring where I do not get hit more than 3 times. That would be a SMART goal. So far so good. So you need a training goal. But how do you know that you're not progressing? If your belief that you're not progressing is based solely on your personal impression, it's time to get feedback. So ask your coaches for their opinion, ask your training partners, maybe they will see something you don't. Film yourself while practicing, while sparring, watch the footage, analyze it, observe also over a longer period of time to ensure that it's not just a bad day or a bad week. Sometimes thinking we're not doing well is just a feeling, but outside perspective can help us to counter-check if it's really true, and also if it's true to get more detailed information on our learning process. And sometimes you will even find out that there actually is progress, but you just didn't notice it. The next one is pretty obvious. Training frequency. It's a really simple thing, right? But it's astonishing how many people get this wrong. If you show up to training once every 3 months and do literally nothing on your own or at home, and then you get frustrated because you're not learning anything, what could be the reason? If you go and train every day, on the other hand, you might end up overtraining and there won't be progress too. In short, you might need to train more or less. And especially for those among you who are training too much, the next one is for you. Regeneration. This is usually the part where I ask you to subscribe, but honestly, I'm a bit tired of just asking you to sub and to like, so let's try reverse psychology on you peoples, alright? Do not subscribe to this channel under any circumstances. You might actually learn something here. This is so underrated in so many sports and by so many people. And yes, you can get away with more stupid things in your 20s, but these things will affect you sooner or later. Your mind needs to process what you have learned, right? So if you try something for the first time, it won't work that well. You try again after a few days, it's better. But your body also needs to regenerate, meaning you need to sleep enough and eat enough and healthily. To emphasize how important this is, here are a few scientific facts. I'll put the links to the papers down into the video description below. This study from 2014 followed 160 student athletes and found out that sleep is a very strong predictor for injury. Athletes who slept for less than 8 hours per night were 1.7 times more likely to have had an injury compared with athletes who slept for more than 8 hours. And that sleep plays a crucial role in your recovery between training sessions is also underlined by many other studies like this one and this one. And if you go to Google Scholar and just look for more, you will find more.
Yes, Elisabeth, we know we need to sleep. That's common knowledge.
I emphasize this so much because literally everyone I know, except maybe 1 or 2 people that do sports, not just the HEMA people, but literally everyone who does sports. If I ask them how much they sleep, they will say on average that they sleep for 6 hours a night. Some of them even less. The next problem you could have is calorie intake. If you don't fuel your body properly, how can it perform at its best, right? My recommendation is to invest some time in learning about nutrition in general and how many calories you need on average. It depends on sex, on weight, etc. Try food logging to see where you stand. And for the German speaking among you, I got a book recommendation, link again in the video description below. Next up, speed and performing under pressure is the goal, not the way. So this one applies specifically to HEMA and comes from my experience as a practitioner but also as a coach. So sometimes I observe people that are learning something new. They start practicing it, but very quickly or very fast start to practice it at full speed. But it somehow doesn't work, they can't do it, they get frustrated, and then they end up saying that either the technique doesn't work or that the technique doesn't work for them, and they will just discard it and stick to what they already know. And then there's the counterpart of people that tend to practice only very slowly, so they never speed up, they execute the technique half-hearted, they also lack muscle tension, they never engage all the body parts they would need, there's no intention behind the technique, and if they then one day try to apply it in sparring, it just doesn't work. Slow is smooth, smooth is fast. Learning has to be a continuous function, right? So you can't just jump from this level to that level. There is a way in between. So yes, you start slowly, you speed up bit by bit, and only if you feel comfortable with one level of speed and it actually works there, you move to the next level. And once you're able to perform the technique really at speed, then you can start pressure testing, meaning that only then your partner can start giving you a bit of counter pressure or even start to respond. For some techniques you just need a lot of drilling, a lot of revision, even more with techniques that might not fit your personal fighting style. And then you also need to understand that just because you're able to execute it, also against a partner that gives you counter pressure or started to give you a response, if you want to apply it in sparring, you also need to study and to practice the setup. What guard does the other one need to be in? What distance do you need to be in to be able to perform the technique? How can you manipulate the other one into that very position or into that very situation? And then the next step is also that you need to be fast enough to recognize when the moment has come to execute the technique. So to sum it up, if your fast execution doesn't work, slow the down and train properly. Body strength and injuries. So maybe your technique is not the problem and maybe your fighting IQ is not the problem too. Maybe you get tired very fast and therefore can't even focus on a technique or on details in the execution. Maybe you're often injured or there's often something that hurts and you can't or you won't train because of that. But even if those do not apply to you, maybe you sit behind a desk all day at work like I do. I will say that in Western countries, with very few exceptions, our bodies really benefit a lot from additional strength training. This also will prevent injuries on the long run, and therefore my main point here is check out strength training. The best case would be to have a session with a personal trainer or even a physiotherapist, and then they can help you picking out the exercises and showing you the correct executions. And then off you go to the gym, train with weights, do calisthenics, whatever you like best, but do something about it. There's only so much a coach can address in HEMA, and strengthening is usually something very personal, something very individual. That's why it's really hard to integrate proper and healthy strength training into sport-specific training sessions. Especially because, from my experience, many people in HEMA really dislike classes where they can't hold a sword. Some classical problems I keep seeing in some of my students, and I'm not even an expert, right? Bad leg axis, weak ankles, missing core strength, and many more. And all of these could be solved with additional strength training. And because again, this can also prevent injuries in the long run, it is even more important to consider strength training. Injuries are a very common reason for people to not progress in training. An injury can mess with you mentally, for example. I had a knee injury a few years ago. It took me almost 2 years to recover the original state of my knee, but it took me more than 3 years until I had recovered my mental state. I was holding back in training and in sparring, especially because of the fear to get injured again. And there was almost no progress during that time. It's also possible that you develop a protective posture, and that leads to even more problems in the future. So my main point here is, if you want progress, prevent injuries as much as you can, and for that purpose, check out strength training. State of mind. Sometimes life hits you, and maybe you get so much on you in your personal life or in your professional life that your mind and body are simply not in a state where they can take in new stuff. And that's okay. Sometimes you need to take care of other things first. Just be aware of what you're expecting of yourself and of your body, of your mind, of your soul, and ask yourself if you're being fair towards yourself. We're not superheroes. And if because of these reasons you're not progressing in training, don't blame yourself. Just take care, try to understand what's going on and what you can do about it. And after that comes the training. Try something different. If all I mentioned up until now does not apply to you, there's just one last advice I can give you. And that is to change something, like anything. If you still have no clue why you're not progressing, the only thing you know for certain is that what you're doing right now is not working. So try out training on your own instead of training with a partner or in a group, or vice versa. Train different things than you usually do. Train with different people, go back to the basics. Take a break maybe. I sometimes had forced breaks in training because I just didn't have the time to train for several reasons. And first I was afraid because you think, oh shit, I cannot go train, I won't progress, I won't get better. But actually, it happened several times that I came back after like a few weeks and I was better off than before. So probably my body just needed a longer break to process stuff. So again, try to change something in your training routines. Anyway, so did I forget anything? If so, let me know in the comments. Do any of these points apply to you? Let us know in the comments. But as always, please stay respectful towards each other and towards anyone featured in the content. That's it for today. So as always, have fun in training and take care. See you in the next one.